Hey there folks, this is Patrick King with Prana Wealth. Here on this channel, we help you grow your wealth faster so that you can make work optional sooner. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I wanted to jump on real quick and make a video to go into a little bit more detail to help those who took IRA distributions in 2020 using the CARES Act. I know a lot of you commented on the first video I made back last year, letting you know that this strategy was available. And then I made a video about the taxes earlier this year. I'll post a card here. It's more of a top-down explanation of how to file your taxes to take advantage of the CARES Act. But I still get a lot of questions, and I wanted to make a quick video to go into the form itself and give you a quick rundown of the mechanics of how to file your taxes. Again, I am not a CPA or an accountant, so you'll want to confirm all of this with your CPA and accountant before you file your taxes. This is for educational and informational purposes only. So without further ado, let's jump into Form 8515E. Hey there, folks. This is Form 8915E. This is the form you're going to want to include in your 2020 taxes if you took a 2020 CARES Act IRA distribution. This tells the IRS exactly what happened and is going to help you spread those taxes across the next 3 years instead of having to pay taxes all in 1 year. So let's get into this form real quick, and we're going to do it in an example format. So let's say that I took out $100,000 from my IRA in 2020 and wanted to use the CARES Act to both avoid the 10% early withdrawal penalty for taking it out under age 59 and a half and spread those taxes across the next 3 years. So obviously you fill out the top portion of the form with your personal information. And while I'm here, let me zoom in a little bit better so you can see this sucker. So here we are. We skip down to part 1. And of course, read the instructions. You can Google Form 8915E and this will pop up. It will have instructions that go along with it. So in this case, this Form 8915 is for natural disasters in general. In the past, Forms A, B, C, D, and D versions of this have been for natural disasters. But in our case, for this example, we're going to assume this is a coronavirus withdrawal. So you just check this box right here in part 1. You don't have to fill out the disaster name or the beginning date or any of these dates because as you see, the disaster of coronavirus lasted all of 2020, and some would argue that it is continuing to drift into 2021 a little bit. So anyway, that's all you have to do there. So then it comes down to lines 1 through 4, essentially listing out the withdrawals that you took from your qualified retirement plans. Line 1 is retirement plans other than IRAs. So if you had a 401k plan that allowed you to do a CARES Act distribution, early distribution for the coronavirus last year, that's where that would go. 401k, 403b, any kind of non-IRA qualified plan would be line 1. I don't assume that there would be a lot of those out there. It seems that from your comments and everything that I've heard, most of these distributions have been from IRAs of some sort. So that would be line 2. So distributions from traditional SEP and simple IRAs go in line 2. So total distributions, you put that right here in column A, line 2, column A. Qualified 2020 disaster distributions. So follow the instructions for this form, but for most people, it's going to be the same amount. And then unless you took over $100,000, in that case, follow the instructions. Allocations of column B. So if you took multiple withdrawals from multiple sources, you need to allocate your $100,000 across those withdrawals. But in our case, we're just going to say, I took $100,000 from an IRA last year, $100,000 qualified. And then the allocation, since you're allowed $100,000 would be allocated. Of course, if you made multiple withdrawals from multiple accounts, you would have to alter this. At any rate, everything you put in column C and lines 1, 2, and 3 need to add up to $100,000. That's why they've put a hard line in there. So there you go. If you took out more, you enter that in line number 5 right here. And of course, that does not qualify for all the special CARES Act stuff that you got. The spreading out taxes, and then of course the 10% penalty for early withdrawals being waived. So once you've got part 1 filled out, which tells the IRS how much you took out, you go to part 2 if you did anything on line 1. So if you took out any kind of withdrawals from retirement plans other than IRAs, you're going to fill this out. I'm going to skip this because I assume most of you have taken IRA withdrawals. If you're watching this, that's at least, again, what I've heard from the comments and from what everyone has told me, having reached out to me from prior videos. So we're going to skip this for our example, but it is very similar to what we are going to see in part 3. So in our example, my hypothetical distribution from last year, we're going to fill out part 3. So did you receive a 2020 distribution from a traditional SEP, simple, or Roth IRA? That was required to be reported on 2020 Form 8606. So consult with your CPA or accountant to see if you need to file Form 8606. In this case, I'm going to say no. And if you do, if you consult with your accountant and you do have to fill out Form 8606, you'll have to fill out lines 13 and 14. In our case, we're going to say no. We're going to skip 13 and 14 and go straight to line 15. If you completed line 2, column C, enter that amount. Otherwise, enter the amount from line 2, column B, if any. Don't include line 15. Don't include on line 15 any amounts reported from 8606. So that would be these 2 lines. But we're going to go up here. Line 2, $100,000 was what I took out in this case. $100,000. So 16, add lines 13, 14, and 15. So if you had 8606 reporting, that would be here. And then anything on top of that would go in line 15. Line 16 just adds it all up. That's your total IRA withdrawals from 2020 is line 16, essentially. So there you go, or the total that are allowed to go with all the benefits according to the CARES Act. Line 17, if you elect not to spread the taxable amount over 3 years, check this box. Not many of you are going to be doing that. You know, it's preferable to have those taxes spread out across the next 3 years. But you may find that, hey, you're back at work in 2021. You expect to have a higher income tax bracket in 2021. It may make more sense for you to just rip the Band-Aid off and pay for the entire tax bill just in tax year 2020. So just think about that a little bit. If that's the case, check that box. Most of you will not be checking the box, I would assume. So you must check this box. If you check the box in line 9, you know, so go back to part 2 if you took something from a 401k. Otherwise, divide line 16 by 3.0, basically, 1/3. So here's where you spread this thing out over 3 years. You divide the total distribution by 3, $33,333. There you go. Divide by 3, and then move on to line 18. If you paid some of your withdrawals back before the tax filing deadline. So 2021 is another unusual year. Twice in a row, we've had April not be tax deadline. You've got until May 17th to file your taxes in 2021. You've still got time to pay some of this back if you found you don't need it. Or if you want to calculate, I don't want to pay that much in taxes, I'm going to put another, let's say $10,000 back or whatever. You can do that before May 15th. If you've done that, or if you plan to do that, that's where this goes. So in this case, let's say I don't pay any of it back. It would be 0. And of course, amount subject to tax in 2020. Subtract line 18 from line 17, $33,333. So there we go. We finished part 3. Part 4 is more for disasters where you have to rebuild a house, you know, for like a hurricane or a tornado or something like that. Unless coronavirus caused you to rebuild your home, that would not apply. And then, of course, down here at the bottom, you only have to sign and date it if you are filing this separate from your 2020 tax return. If it's included in your tax return, you don't have to sign it. But that pretty much covers Form 8915E. So there we go. In this case, $100,000 withdrawal in 2020. We want to make sure that we get our CARES Act benefits. We go through part 3 essentially, and then we got this $333. Now, what do you do with it? Here we go. We go over to Form 1040, as it tells you. You got to go to 1040. Form 1040 is just your normal tax return. Of course, you fill out your personal information. All this IRA stuff goes on line 4. So there you are, line 4, IRA distributions. In this case, for our $100,000 distribution, taxable amount, $33,333. And there you go. So on this left-hand column is everything that gets rolled into your taxable income for 2020. That's where that 1/3 goes for this year. Now, in future years, if you don't pay any of it back, you're going to have to continue to file Form 8915E in the same manner for the next 3 years. And that's how you spread this thing out evenly across 3 years. Normally, you would, and this is just for informational purposes, you don't have to do this for a CARES Act IRA withdrawal in 2020. But normally, you'd have to come over to Form 5329 and fill that out. Additional tax on early distributions is part 1 right here. That's where you pay the 15%, or the 10% early withdrawal penalty for people who are under age 59 and a half. Again, you don't have to do that in 2020 because of the CARES Act. So that was a huge benefit. So we're going to get out of that. Again, come back over here next year. Same process, 8915. I guess it'll be F at that point. But check on that. I don't want to just go ahead and make a call, but you would fill out an 8915 in the similar fashion, including anything you paid back here, like on this line 18, in future tax years. So there you go. That's the mechanics of it. Again, I'm not a tax preparer. I'm not a CPA. Consult with your tax person, whether it's a CPA, accountant, whomever, to ensure that you're doing this right. But I had so many questions. I got so much good feedback on the last 2 videos I made about the CARES Act IRA distributions. I wanted to just go into the specifics of this stuff. So yeah, there you go. All right, I wanted to just go over that real quick, and I know it's a long video because there's a lot of details. If you've got questions about your specific situation, I'll do my best to answer them as someone who is not a tax preparer, and of course for educational and informational purposes only. So leave those questions that you have in the comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Visit us at pranawealth.com to see if we're maybe a good fit for you as a financial advisor. We are a fee-only financial advisor based in Atlanta, and we work virtually with clients all across America. If you're ready to talk, we're ready to listen. Again, thanks so much for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.